To the October 20th, 2020 City Council meeting. Please let the record reflect that all of the council members are present. I'm just going to read this determination. So this is the council chair determination to hold electronic meetings without anchor location. In accordance with Utah Code 52.3.2074, I have determined that conducting meetings of the Ogden City Council with an anchor location presents a substantial risk to the health and safety of those who may be present due to the infectious nature and potentially dangerous health effects of contracting the COVID-19 virus. This determination is based on the following. Utah has been in a declared state of emergency due to COVID-19 since March 6, 2020. The World Health Organization has characterized the spread of COVID-19 as a pandemic. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention, or the CDC, has determined that COVID-19 is easily spread between or among people who are in close contact with each other through airborne respiratory droplets and may be spread by people who are non-symptomatic. Federal, state, and local health authorities recommend limiting public gatherings, wearing face masks, and following social distancing guidelines. Currently, physical distancing measures are difficult to set up and maintain in city council chambers. Based on the foregoing, all public meetings, including work sessions and meetings of the Redevelopment Agency, will be held electronically through October 31st, 2020. Information on how to connect to the electronic public meetings will be posted on each agenda. The public may comment during the electronic meeting, during public hearings, or provide public input on items designated for input on the agenda. General public comments will also be taken during regular meetings. Written public comments may also be submitted through the following electronic options. Telephonic message at 801-629-8158, public comment submission form at ogdencity.com/public input, or email at citycouncil@ogdencity.com. This statement was issued and became effective October 6, 2020. Thanks everyone for your patience with that. I've asked Vice Chair Blair to perform the Pledge of Allegiance.
Yes, would all those please rise and repeat the Pledge of Allegiance after me?
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, and please join me in a moment of silence. Thanks, everyone. So now we have minutes to be approved this evening. So we have for the regular meeting of June 16th, 2020, Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, Chair Chaburka, I have reviewed those minutes and they are accurate to the best of my recollection.
And the regular meeting of July 7th, 2020, Councilmember Lopez.
Yes, Chair, the minutes are correct and I moved that we approve the minutes. Make a motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lopez and a second by Councilmember Heyer to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a public hearing. We invite Lisa Stout, the comptroller, to talk with us a little bit about the fiscal year 2021 budget amendments. The first item is miscellaneous grants.
And Chair, just so the council knows, when we get to item 2 on this storm sewer utility, I'll excuse myself from the meeting by turning on camera. There's a couple items in that budget item that are related to my day job, so I'll excuse myself from that to avoid conflict of interest.
Thank you, Councilmember Nadolski.
Thank you, Chair Chaburka. I'm actually going to turn the time over to Corey Jensen. She's a senior accountant in our accounting office.
Welcome, Corley.
Thank you, Chair Chaburka and council members. Thank you for the opportunity to present tonight. I will be presenting on the proposed ordinance 2020-50, and it's amending the fiscal year 2021 budget in the amount of $876,999. And if it is all right, I will share my screen for that. Can you see this okay?
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. So the first item on the first appropriation in the proposed budget amendment before you is for the general fund carryover for the 2020 census costs. This is for $15,625. These funds were appropriated in fiscal year 2020, and we are just carrying them forward for the time period that the census was ran in fiscal year 2021 to cover those expenditures. The next items in the proposed budget amendment is for the appropriation of, I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. The reappropriation of the budget in EN 006 to EN 041 to provide grant match funds for a WACOG funds that the city received, as well as state UDOT funds. And this is for the 20th Street project. We are also in this appropriation reducing the state appropriation that we received for the 20th Street. And that is due to the city switching out federal funds for state funds. It does reduce the amount of money, grant money that the city receives, but it, in the long run, saves the city money by saving us from having to follow Davis-Bacon regulations that are required by those federal funds. The next appropriation is to appropriate federal grant funds that were received for the Polk Avenue sidewalk. That the grant amount is $77,302. The match required for this grant is $19,000. Oh, I apologize. The match required for this grant is $19,326, and that will be, the match will be funded through our existing sidewalks budget. The next item in the appropriation is the allocation or the appropriation of the municipal ramp grant funds. It is proposed that we appropriate $35,000 to the Miles Goodyear Park Complex CIP project, which is RG 069. This was a previously approved project. It's not in the current year CIP plan. However, we are just, the scope of the project has not changed. We are just allocating these additional funds to cover costs that were not able to be funded by the ramp grant that was previously received of $162,000. And so by allocating these additional funds, we'll be able to finish the scope of that project. The remainder of the municipal ramp grant, we are proposing that the appropriation of $51,700, and that's to, those funds will be used for the Mar Court restroom, and that's a perpetual project that that is a part of the general park improvements CIP project of PK 124. The next item on the appropriation is an allocation or an appropriation of UDOT betterment funds that Ogden City has received for $135,525. And this is for curb and gutter at 315 Wall to 2nd Street sidewalk. This does require a city match of $45,175, and that match will come from EN 004, which is our city sidewalk CIP project. The next item on the appropriation is reclassifying $20,000 from our CIP critical project contingency to the amphitheater improvements project. These funds will be used for replacing the cobblestones in the amphitheater in preparation for Christmas Village. And it is not being budgeted under the CIP projects because it is under the $30,000 that requires the CIP project threshold. The next item in the appropriation is the appropriation of the dinosaur park contribution for fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20 in the amount of $87,500. This will go to the Centennial Trails Improvement Project of PY02.
Any questions about those, council members? Don't see any movement toward their mics.
I was just grateful that was a typo. I was going to learn what a grail was.
Yeah.
Okay. The next items up for consideration in the CIP proposed budget amendment is the reduction of the unused budget in the Harrison widening project. It's up for consideration that we reclassify that budget into EN 06 into the general streets budget. Then the next item is the appropriation of a ramp grant that Union Station has received for the car museum floor rehab, and as well as the match required on that ramp grant, which is coming from a donation that the city received on behalf of Union Station. And this will be budgeted under US 034. Any questions on the CIP proposed amendment before I move to the medical services fund?
I don't see any, thank you.
Okay. The proposed appropriations in the medical services fund are 2 federal grants that our medical service received. The first one is for $33,894. This grant will be used to purchase personal protective equipment as well as supplies. And then the second grant is for the purchase of 8 power load systems into ambulances. The grant award is $160,875. They do require a 10% match of $16,086, and that will be funded by just general operating, by the operating budget of the medical services fund.
Thanks for that clarification.
The next item on the proposed budget amendment is appropriation of grants in our miscellaneous grant funds. The first item is a state grant that was received in the amount of $2,500 to cover the 2020 census costs. The next appropriation is $10,000 for it's a state grant for the bicycle rodeo, and this allows Ogden City Police Department to host bicycle rodeos around Ogden City. The next item on the appropriation is for the federal bulletproof vest grant awards that we received for fiscal year 18 and 19 in the amount of $26,359. These grants also require 50% match, and that is provided out of the police operating budget. And this is to provide replacement bulletproof vests for our officers. The next item on the appropriation is for our justice assistant grants in the amount of $53,500. With this grant, Ogden City Police Department will be purchasing ballistic shields. They also provide $5,300 to Weber County Sheriff's Department to purchase supplies as well. Also purchased with this grant will be a simulator that our police department will be able to use for training. The next grant appropriation is for Project Safe Neighborhoods grant of $200,000. The grant award is $200,001, $201,700. The grant pays for forensic testing, travel, and wages for police officers and does not require a city match. The next grant is our Union Station Ramp Saturdays grant that is received from Weber County in the amount of $4,000. And this grant also does not require a match and will help fund the Ramp Saturday activities at Union Station. The next appropriation is for $900 to recognize Union Station donations that have been received, and those donations are used to cover supplies or operating costs of Union Station. The next appropriation is for a federal grant from the National Endowment for the Arts in the amount of $6,000. This grant will cover wages for the arts, culture, and events marketing staff. The next grant is for the Certified Local Government States Grant. The award was $10,500, and the appropriation will fund planning, commission travel, training, and grant administrative costs. The next appropriation is for $18,000 for the State Heritage and Arts Grant. This grant will cover general operation support for our Arts, Culture, and Events Department for fiscal year 21. The next next appropriation is for $2,000, and this item is for the Marshall White Music Program grant that it was received through the RAMP program of Weber County. And then the next item on the appropriation is for the Comcast Cares funds that are received in the amount of $24,500. And this is to recognize the donation received at the end of fiscal year 20.
Great. Any questions? Guess not. Thank you.
Chair, I don't have a question. I just have comments, and I think we just, it's around CIP and looking at more of the process of CIP. I think if you go back, Coralie, I'm sorry.
Yeah. No.
There was like $35,000. No. Is this the CIP?
This one's the CIP is it the 35,000 for the Miles Goodyear?
Oh, that was a ramp grant. Never, right? Sorry.
Correct.
Just then this isn't what I was thinking. I was thinking we had to add money onto a CIP project, but I think that might be actually coming up in the next, might be under the storm sewer. So I'll let you keep going, but I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, I know what you mean.
They're getting all mixed up, but thank you.
Of course. Thank you.
I'll give you a hard time then.
Maybe it'll be somebody else's turn then.
So my final fund is for our Strike Force Fund, and this is just to recognize the grants that they have received. The first one on the appropriation is for the HIDA grant. This is a federal grant, and it assists in the Strike Force's operating expenses. It does not require a federal match. The second line on the appropriation is for a federal e-share that is received, and it's $8,123 as well. And then our core income, which is interlocal support, of $42,970. And all of these go to support our Strike Force operating expenses. And then just with one note was, I know there's been concern with COVID-19 and how Ogden City is doing with expending grant funds and if we're able to receive grant funds. And we are monitoring it fairly closely to make sure that we're following grant guidelines, and we are working with our grant agencies to file extensions if needed on these grants and under the circumstances that COVID-19 has presented.
Do you foresee any challenges with that? I mean, are they being pretty flexible? Or?
In the cases that we have had to reach out, they have been very flexible and they're understanding it because they're seeing it in their agencies as well, and they're issuing extensions normally.
Great. Great news.
Chair Chaburka, this is Amy Maybe, policy analyst. Sorry to jump in. I don't know if Councilmember White's question was relative to the projects that are not currently in the CIP plan. So there are 2 projects in this budget opening that are not in the current plan. Was that your question, Councilmember White?
Yeah, I can't remember where it's at. And, it was just, I think we talked about it, but.
Yeah, so it's the Miles Goodyear Park Complex. So you were right on target. And then the other one is the 20th Street, Washington to Monroe reconstruction. And so those currently, per the opinion of legal, don't require additional amendments to the plan. If you all desired, we could look at maybe pulling those out and have those amendments. I don't know if you'd like the financing staff to explain a little bit more on the thought process there.
Yeah, and my concern last week was, thank you, Amy. I could not remember. I knew it was something along that lines, but it has to do with the fact that would we have changed our minds if we knew that there needed to be an additional amount of money put towards that project from a CIP perspective? And I think we just, maybe not for these projects, but maybe, in my opinion, it could be the other council members' opinions, but in my opinion, we can go forward but I just really want to come up with a better process of really identifying what that amount is, and if there is an additional amount, I don't even know how to, if there's going to be a need for an additional amount, then what is that process and how can we deal with that going forward? I guess I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but I'm just concerned that we just add something because we don't have it. It wasn't fully baked, and that's what it looks like to me. It wasn't fully baked. I know that there's other circumstances around those projects, but it seems like it wasn't fully baked, and therefore now we're coming back and asking for more money, or we're getting more grants, or we're doing this, and so that's what it feels like. I know that that's probably not the truth, but.
And I don't know if Lisa wanted to jump in.
I just had a couple of comments. I think your concerns are absolutely valid, Councilmember White, and we should take that under advisement, and we can always improve our process. I think with the Miles Goodyear CIP, the original funding source of that was a ramp grant. So the city had to do a 50% match. So that being said, when the ramp grant was funded, Public Services was aware that there was a piece that they would not be able to complete. And so that's why they've come back with the recommendation to use the municipal ramp to help them complete that project fully. Again, that being said, I think your concerns are absolutely valid, and the CIP it is a lot of money that the city invests in CIP, and we should be exploring these costs fully. Another challenge that has been brought up to me in the past is the city policy does not allow us to bid before projects are funded. So sometimes that's just challenging for the project managers. There's putting those costs together. So I think there's a balance.
Yeah, and I just hope that we are moving forward on striking that balance. And I am very appreciative. I completely understand the CIP process and know its challenges, and I just am trying to be as transparent as possible.
Yes.
I think the more that we can identify why we did it, and that's helpful as well. So I appreciate.
Yes. Agreed. Thank you.
Nothing against you or
one more note on. Oh, sorry, Lisa.
It's all good.
We are coordinating with administrative staff to actually make some adjustments to the CIP document, and I'm thinking that with some of the changes, it will include a listing of those completed, fully funded projects, and so then it won't be as awkward as a project that's not currently in the plan, because there will be some indication in the plan that project exists. And so right now, it is a little bit awkward, but we are working on clarifying that.
Thank you, Amy and Lisa and Coralie for working on that. I appreciate it for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Because I also think, these projects sometimes go over several years, and it's like it could be a whole new council, or half of the council could be new by the time, And so I agree that, sometimes it needs to just be a little bit more transparent. Not that anybody's trying to hide anything, but yeah, to understand that better. Great. If there's any more discussion or questions for Lisa or Coralie? If not, I'd be happy to entertain a motion on that item.
Chair, proposed to be ordinance 2020-50.
This is a public hearing.
Oh.
Thank you for the reminder. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, so yes, I think each of these items will be a public hearing. So yeah, Brandon, would you mind explaining to folks how they might participate? Thanks for the reminder, Councilmember Heyer. And yeah, let's double check that the hand raising function is available.
Yeah, so to participate in these public hearings, you can do so by using the raise hand feature, which has been enabled within the Zoom application. You should be able to see that at the bottom of your screen and be able to click that to raise your hand.
Chair, recognizing the names in the attendees list as veterans to this and seeing no hands raised, I would make a motion that we close the public hearing.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Heiner and a second by Councilmember White to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And Chair, with that, I propose that we adopt proposed ordinance 2020-50.
I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember White and a second by Councilmember Heyer to adopt proposed ordinance 2020-50. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Nadolski,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
Aye.
Councilmember White,
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair,
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Thank you. So I know that Councilmember Nadolski is going to excuse himself for a moment while we talk about the next item.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members and Chair Chaburka. Lisa's asked that I jump on to discuss this budget opening with you tonight. So this one before you tonight is proposed ordinance 2020-51, which is a budget opening to recognize some grants that were received in the amount of $346,000 in the stormwater fund. And let me share my screen with you so you can see that information. All right, so as you can see, we had 3 different grants that were received by the city, and these grants are all related to the Weber and Ogden River restoration, and so we propose that these 3 grants be recognized in SU 078, which is the Ogden and Weber River Restoration CIP. The 3 different grants, one is the Watershed Initiative State Grant in the amount of $47,762. This grant does not require any match. This is a grant that was received from the state. The second one is the Utah Outdoor Recreation Grant in the amount of $150,000. This one does require a match of the same amount, $150,000, and we propose that match come from what's already been appropriated within SU 078. The third one is a 319 grant. It's a federal grant that the city has received in the amount of $149,000. And this one does have matches as well, but the amount of the match on that one is $93,333. And again, we propose that the match come from what's already been appropriated within SU 078. So those are the 3 items, the 3 grants that are being proposed that be funded in the Storm Sewer Utility Fund and be placed within SU 078. And again, this goes back to the discussion we had a little earlier with Councilmember White in regards to projects that were not in the current plan. SU 078 wasn't in the fiscal year 2022 plan. It was or 21 plan, sorry. This one was originally funded in 2016. And each year, I believe it has been in the plan, but this year they decided not to place it in there because at the time they had not anticipated requesting any additional funding, and then these 3 grants presented themselves. And so that's why the actual brief wasn't in the 21 plan, but we are proposing that that's where these funds be allocated. So are there any questions?
I have one, just for clarification. When we have a match, where do those funds go? Do they go to the project, or do they go to another organization? When we have, for an example, I believe you said the outdoor recreation grant was $150,000, and we had to match that. What does the additional funds where does the match go?
So that additional match, so it's required that we would spend at least $300,000 for that. They're going to provide the 150, and then we have to provide that match. We've already appropriated money within SU 078 that we're going to use as that match. So when we report back on that grant, we'd be able to recognize the city portion along with the grant portion.
And so the match goes with the project that is being matched.
Correct.
Thank you.
Question, any other questions? Well, thanks so much, Justin. This item is also a public hearing. If there's no more discussion, I'd be happy to open up the public hearing. I don't see any new attendees, so if you'd like to make comment on this particular item, please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting.
Chair, seeing no hands being raised, I would make a motion that we close the public hearing on this item.
Thank you.
Second.
A motion by Councilmember Heyer, a second by Vice Chair Blair to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Unless there's more discussion, I'd be happy to entertain a motion about this item.
Chair, I'd make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2020-51.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Vice Chair Blair to adopt the proposed ordinance. This is also a roll call vote.
Councilmember Lopez,
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens,
He's on mute. He may not realize it.
I saw him say aye, but I did not hear him say aye.
Aye.
thank you. Councilmember White,
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer,
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair,
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Thanks, everyone. I don't know if we need to let Councilman Radulski know that we're back. Ah, he's back. Thanks for unmuting yourself. Awesome. Well, I know those grants, I mean, it's so much work to get a grant and then report on them and move the money around. So I'm really impressed with the amount of grant funding that we're able to access. The next item on our agenda is the Continental Community Reinvestment Area. I'm not sure who's reporting on that. Maybe Brandon. I saw him on the meeting. Oh, Lisa. Sorry. I took your spot.
That's okay.
I apologize.
That's okay. I'm going to just talk about the budget real quick and then turn the time over to Mr. Cooper to talk about the project itself.
Thank you.
The proposal before you in Ordinance 2020-49 is to appropriate $600,000 of BDO lease revenue that is unappropriated in that fund currently to transfer to the redevelopment agency to help with the hostess site, Flowers Foods, I believe is the name of the building that the city purchased. To date, the city has appropriated $3.6 million to this project. The sources of those funds are $1.1 million from another RDA area in the form of an interfund loan, a bridge loan of $1 million, and BDO lease revenue that has already been transferred to the redevelopment agency in the amount of $1.5 million. The expenditures to date on this project total $3.3 million. $2.1 million of the appropriation went to the purchase of the property. Site work and demolition costs so far are total $656,000. And the bridge loan from OIDC has been repaid in the amount of $430,000 and with a $200,000 interest payment. This appropriation would allow the city to repay the rest of the bridge loan. And then there are some additional project costs that would help be covered with this additional appropriation. Brandon, do you want to address what we're doing in that area?
Yes, thank you. Let me share my screen if I may. I know council members have seen this, but for the sake of those who are watching, this helps to put what we're talking about into context a little bit. So in pursuit of the strategic priorities that have been set by the council and by the administration, from time to time, Ogden City gets involved with projects that are in the city. Sometimes those projects are initiated by Ogden City. Sometimes those projects are brought to us by third parties. In the case of Wonder Block, which is the Continental Bakery site, this was a project that we undertook for the purpose of protecting our downtown and also enhancing the 25th Street experience. As it is the case with each project, we undertake a certain level of analysis that helps us understand whether or not the proposed project, whether it's a self-initiated project or one that's come to us from a third party, we analyze it to determine whether or not the project is feasible. And we've identified these 5 areas in which the city is most effective in getting involved in. There's lots of component parts of a project, but these general categories are those that we have determined apply to 99% of the projects that we involve ourselves in, and that we can have the most effect in terms of making a project feasible. So in the case of tonight's request, you'll see that we've determined that the acquisition category was a category that if the city was to be involved in, that we could undergo some efficiencies there and to also to control the property, which was a major consideration back when we purchased it. So as Lisa has said, the request tonight is to pay down the remaining balance of that loan that was received by OIDC. And then you see here also that there's other components as part of the plan that we have initiated some activity under. We've been working on planning a master plan for the project for a number of months now, and that's getting really close, and we're excited to bring that forward. We've also undertaken the work of demolishing the building, the environmental abatement of asbestos, and we're also working on the tank cleanup that we found when we did the demolition. In addition to that, there's some additional expenditures as it relates to that, and then also some design work, and then some infrastructure work that would be ancillary to those 2 things. As we move forward down the project progress timeline, there will be some additional things that the city will need to involve themselves in pending approval from you all and from the administration, of course. That's associated with a land transfer and development agreement, potentially some tax increment finance that could help support the project. And then we've been looking at creative options to help with our office market as it's ever changing. And so we anticipate that LTDA coming to you shortly. But again, tonight's request is just primarily associated with the acquisition category and in the retirement of that bridge loan from OIDC. So this is just a little snapshot into the life of a project. Again, it's similar to most of the projects that we undertake. So you'll probably see this kind of framework often. And this gives us an idea of where we're at today and then where we hopefully will be in the next coming weeks.
We approve this message.
Are there any questions?
Chris Peterson, and I'm Spencer Cox.
Oh,
I have one.
something in the background. Go ahead, Councilmember Stevens.
Brandon, I know you've covered this before, but there's the state courts as a trade. Could you maybe clarify that? What are we acquiring property in exchange for other property, or how's that working with the state?
That's right. North of our parcel, which is about a 5-acre parcel, just north of it is some land owned by the state courts. And that currently is being used as a parking lot for their employees and for their customers. That's an important piece to make the project as we have envisioned it work. And so we've approached them almost 2 years ago about acquiring that property and what it would take to acquire that as part of our project. It's been determined that that can be acquired, and in doing so, the consideration for that land would be the replacement of the parking that they're currently utilizing in a structure that's to be built within the project site. And so that's what we've been working on. We're doing some legal documentation now, so it seems like we have made the progress that's necessary. So you'll be seeing that as part of the LTDA and some upcoming documents in the future.
So we'd be responsible for the construction of that facility then, is that right?
Right. In this case, they will only want to work government to government. They don't want to be associated with a third party that could change over time through market conditions. And so that's a requirement that they've had, and that puts the onus on them to provide those required parking stalls.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do you have a question, Councilmember Nadolski? Your screen is, your little green square is lighting up.
Nope, I'm good. Think so.
I'm just double checking. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. And Brennan, I have to say, I do really appreciate this perspective, showing kind of the long-term picture of this type of project. Like we were kind of talking about in the last section, I think sometimes it's hard to see the bigger vision when we're kind of just deciding individual things one at a time. So I do appreciate that.
No problem.
Okay, so if there's no more questions or discussion, I'd be happy to open this item up for the public hearing. I don't think there's anybody new on the attendings list, so if you would like to comment on this particular item, please raise your hand.
Chair, seeing no hands being raised, I would make a motion that we close the public hearing.
I second it.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, a second by Councilmember Stevens to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
And with that, I would make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2020-49.
I second.
Who seconded? I apologize. I missed it.
Councilmember Lopez, sorry.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I thought it was you, but then I don't know. I saw another square light up, so I wasn't sure. Okay, great. So we have a motion by, I've forgotten who did the first one. I apologize.
Heyer.
Thank you, Heyer. A motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember Lopez to adopt proposed ordinance 2020-49. This is also a roll call vote.
Councilmember Nadolski.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember White.
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair Chaburka.
Aye, and that passes. Thanks, everybody, for bearing with me. And if I'm in doubt, I should just say Councilmember Heyer, huh? Maybe.
Sometimes.
Thank you. Thanks you all so much.
Chair,
yes.
Before we move to the next item, if it's okay with you, I've got a urgent work matter I have to tend to. I'll have to be excused for the remainder of the meeting if that's okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Nadolski. Good luck with that.
Okay, thank you so much. See you guys. Good night, you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Next, we have reports from administration. We're going to be talking about the Marshall N. White Center Advisory Committee. And I should just mention here that I think it was just the anniversary of Marshall White's passing. So that might be something that we want to recognize this evening in our closing statements as well. On my agenda, I have Mayor Brown, Deputy Director and City Attorney, first presenting. Oh, Mayor, I'm so sorry, we can't hear you. Doesn't look like you're on mute. Yeah, from our side, it looks like you're all clear.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Chair Choberka, members of the council. I just wanted to review a few recommendations that we have to the Marshall White Committee ordinance. And these changes to the advisory committee are to bring it a little bit more current with some of our more recent committees, that some changes that have made our committees more successful. And the first change is a recommendation that we have a sliding number of members on the committee, no fewer than 9 and not more than 11. And this gives a little bit more flexibility when we're looking for members with a particular expertise or from a particular municipal district. We can leave a position open and wait to fill that with an appropriate committee member. We did that with the Diversity Commission as well, and when we were setting up that committee for the first time, we also underfilled that, and that gave us the ability to make sure we had the best, most qualified members on that, on the Diversity Commission. So we're recommending that here as well. You'll see that there's an increase in the number of ex officio members. From the city, we've included a representative from the Division of Arts and Special Events, because they have been working closely with the Marshall White Center staff in some of their signature events that they've had. They do a Cinco de Mayo event, a Martin Luther King Day event, and we feel that that's a good additional staff member to have there. And we've also added a representative from an Ogden-based youth services organization, and they can add a good perspective, as the Marshall White Center has historically partnered with a number of our youth organizations. And so it'll be good to add that person to the board there, to the committee. One of the things our newer committees have an outline of the types of qualifications and skills that we're looking for. So the recommendations are that we pull from a variety of areas that's in the modification and the ordinance, from recreation, fitness, education, cultural heritage, arts and special events, business, finance, human services, or community assistance. We also are adding a recommendation that there be a representation from the 4 municipal districts. And as with the existing ordinance, a majority of the voting members should be Ogden City residents. We're also recommending a change in the term from 3 years to 2 years, and that is to attract committee members. They can serve for 2 terms, but we found that it's hard to recruit and attract committee members that will serve for a longer period of time. I think everybody's just busy right now. We've done the shorter term cycle with the Diversity Commission, and that's also been successful. So we're recommending that change there, and also having a somewhat of a attendance requirement. And we don't generally see this being invoked. What usually happens in the event that a committee member is not attending consecutive meetings, usually the chair of the committee will meet with them and find out, is there a concern? Is there something that maybe there was an excused absence that we didn't know about, or are they really just becoming too busy to participate anymore? So that's usually what happens before it gets to the point of actually recommending removal. But it's a good reminder to committee members that we are anticipating that they will participate fully and attend meetings. So we're making that recommended change. A few of the other changes are, I think, because of this being one of our older committees and bringing it up to speed with the administrative function versus city council function. And so we've made some changes in that regard. And also, we add in some language where the committee, in making their recommendations, they work through the recreation manager. And we found that our more successful committees have a strong working relationship with their staff member. And so that's the reason why we put that in there. So there's that communication and working hand in hand with any research that the committee might do with respect to outside funding sources or coordination with other organizations like the local schools or social service agencies. And so when they make those recommendations to the administration, they work through our staff person. In this case, that's the recreation manager, Ed Bridge. And the sunset is extended to April 30th, 2023. And that is our standard sunset time. And that gives the opportunity for this to come back before the city council at that time, make any adjustments that we might need, and just builds in a time to relook at it. So those are the changes that the administration is recommending. Are there any questions for me?
I just have one, Mayor. I think it's good that we put in that attendance. I think that adds some credibility that we're looking for from this committee, because we want some good, solid information coming from them. But my question would be is, who would give them direction? Would it come from the administration, or would it come from the council, or would it be another resource that the direction would be coming for? Because they need to know exactly what avenues to go to. We don't want to dictate where they're going to go and what avenues they want to go on, but they need to have some structure in that aspect.
Well, there'll be, and that's a good question. Where this committee has been inactive for a while, one of the things that the staff person will work with legal, and we can develop some internal rules and procedures, and that will help guide the committee in their procedures and keeping them with a good structure. In the specific case of an attendance issue, they would be looking to their staff person, Ed Bridge, to get some advice on that. They could also seek advice of the city attorney's office, before they took any recommended action there. So there's plenty of avenues to get support from administrative staff.
Okay, thank you.
Any other? Yes.
Yeah, do they start out with any kind of a basic template for rules or norms that they have? And do they have anything like the Planning Commission does, which is an ex parte rule? Or can you explain how that all works?
That's a good question, and we do have a template that we will have, and probably within the first meeting or so, we usually ask for maybe some members of the committee who want to form a subcommittee to work with usually myself or someone else in the legal office to review those rules and procedures, and they'll come back. With respect to ex parte communications, it's a little different with our committees that are don't have that sort of quasi judicial or sort of quasi regulatory function the way the Planning Commission, the landmarks and BZA and those committees do have more of a restriction on that. So we would probably expect here that members of the Marshall White Advisory Committee might meet with members of the public and then and communicate that information back to the rest of the committee. And we do have standard provisions such as conflicts of interest and the municipal ethics acts that do apply to our committee members as well. So those are standards, but it's a little different with respect to ex parte.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I don't have a question. I just have a comment, and I just want people to understand that. And Mary, you did a great job, but I don't think people understand that the last time we had this committee was when we had a different structure within the council mayor structure, and so to move and I know that it doesn't seem as though, but we've moved very quickly into changing this ordinance and really looking at even just the structure between the council and the mayor and what we're a strong mayor form of government now. And so I hope people understand that all of this takes time and it's just part of the process, but we've had to really even look at the ordinance. And so I appreciate all the efforts that you've put into this, Mara. So thank you.
Thank you. That's an excellent comment.
I agree, Councilmember White. I also think, I think in my perspective, anyway, I'll speak for myself, that I really am hopeful that we can help provide any additional support. If, I know that the staff totally capable and able to do this, but we had even discussed maybe if they determine they want a consultant to maybe help to facilitate the group or, do some of this work because they certainly have their own work they already have to do, and we're kind of adding this on top of that. But really thinking about the way I see this committee anyway is that we want them to really explore the options in an open-minded way. And I don't have any preconceived notions about what's going to come out of the committee or the advice. And I just think that that's kind of important also to put out there as kind of speaking of that as like, I just want what's really best for the community overall. And I really have confidence that we'll be able to do it by bringing this committee back in this way. So I appreciate all the work that's gone into it. Any other comments or questions? I don't know if you would like to say anything now, Ed.
No, I just think you've said it all, and you said everything I would say. And Mara has done a fantastic job with putting this new ordinance together and administration, and so I'm excited to get started and get going.
Great. Any other comments or questions?
Ready for a motion?
I'm happy to take one. Thank you, sir.
As chair, I would make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2020-54 and instigate the Marshall White Advisory Committee.
Second.
I have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Councilmember White to adopt proposed ordinance 2020-54. And this is also a roll call vote.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember White?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Chaburka?
Aye, and that passes. Again, thanks so much for all of the work on that. It's very exciting. Next up, we have the committee appointments item.
Like I said, Bridge Recreation Manager, Council Chair Chaburka and council members, we have administration is asking that you appoint the 14 names provided in the council packet to the Marshall White Center Advisory Committee. Those names are Sean Bishop, Tanner Coons, Clarice Millajor, Gerard Sawyer, Mike Boss, Camille Cook, Priscilla Martinez, Lonnie Ogilvie, Ronald White, Ed Bridge, Juan Martinez, Sarah Yearsley, Regina Esparza, and Tom DeBoll.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Are they the voting members, Chair?
Some are, some aren't.
Okay. Which ones are the voting ones?
So the voting members are Sean Bishop, Tanner Coons, Clarice Millajor, Gerard Sawyer, Michael Voss, Camille Cook, Priscilla Martinez, Lonnie Ogilvie, and Ronald White.
Okay.
Chair, I would make a motion then that we appoint those people listed by Mr. Bridge to the Marshall White Center Advisory Committee.
Second.
Thank you. So we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Vice Chair Blair to appoint the committee members as listed, and this is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. That passes. I'm so excited to see this committee come to fruition. I appreciate all the staff's work on this, and I so appreciate all of these people for being willing to serve in this capacity. And I see we have Priscilla Martinez on the attendee list, and thanks so much, Priscilla, for your willingness to serve. I also see a couple diversity commissioners. Thanks so much for joining the meeting. The next item, which is also very exciting, Ben is missing, the most fun part of the meeting. We have new business, the Ogden Youth Council and Leadership Academy, which our Executive Director, Janine Eller-Smith, is going to talk a little bit about.
Thank you, Chair Jaberka. I'll share my screen here. So we just talked about this last week in the work session, but I will just do a quick review. What the proposal before you is to create basically two organizations, a youth council and also a leadership academy. For the organization Youth Council, the membership will be 9 members selected from students enrolled from grades 9 through 12. Those students may attend any high school, be homeschooled, but they must be an Ogden resident. They would be elected for a term of 2 years, and once they're seated, they will elect their own chair and vice chair annually. We hope to have them meet monthly from September through May, so basically this school year.
Janine, could I ask a question about the election?
Uh-huh.
If they are elected and they're a senior already, will that just be a 1-year term, or will they still keep a 2-year term?
You mean if they're appointed to the youth council as a senior?
Yes.
It would just be a 1-year term.
I see. Okay.
Because they have to be once they graduate, they're no longer eligible to be on the council.
All right. Thank you.
So for advisors, we'll have 1 or 2 city council members that are assigned as advisors, and then council staff will also act as advisors to the youth council. They'll have powers and duties of an annual budget and a report. We hope to encourage them to do at least one service project during the year. They'll be involved in the leadership program, and they'll also serve as leaders for that leadership program. So they'll chair those meetings as well. The chair and vice chair will chair those meetings. They'll advise the city council regarding youth activities and things that they might be interested in. And then we hope to have them attend local government day at the legislature. With the Leadership Academy, same criteria. Students enrolled 9th through 12th grade, attend any high school, but must be an Ogden resident. They can be in the academy for 2 years. And then the chair and vice chair of the Youth Council will serve as the chairs for this organization. The Leadership Academy will just meet quarterly and have the same youth council advisors. And the curricula will kind of depend on the students themselves, but we want to make sure that everyone gets a review of the council mayor form of government. They'll also attend the local government day of the legislature. We may have elections, and if the youth council has other things that they think Leadership Academy should address, we will certainly work with them to develop that curricula. Based on the discussions from the work session last week, we'll have the Leadership Academy start at the beginning of 2021, so in January. We're working on getting our applications in place right now and getting the schools notified so that that can be pushed out through social media and what other ways the schools have of contacting students. And then later in the spring, we will start taking applications for youth council so that we can seat them for the fall of 2021. So we really appreciate the efforts of Amir Jackson from Nurture the Creative Minds and his students, Matthew Goff, Mercedes Randhan, Meadow Gleichman, Kia Lee, Izzy Felix, Ivy Hallowell. And I know that Mercedes was on the meeting for a little while, but apparently she had to leave. But we will be presenting them with some plaques to recognize their efforts. They've spent a lot of time working through this, and Amir was kind of the go-between between Mara Brown and I in kind of working through some issues. So we're just going to thank them for, the nurture, their initiative and creativity in doing this, the significance that they've played in creating these two organizations. And we just appreciate their efforts so much and want them to become future leaders of the community, and hope that by participating in these types of organizations that will happen. We're going to do our best to get the plaques to them. They can either, if they're listening to this, they can either come and pick them up at the city council offices, or maybe we can try and get them to Amir and he can get them divvied out to these students. So with that, if there's not any other questions, we just suggest that you adopt the resolution, which outlines both of these organizations as I've just reviewed.
Chair, I do have a question.
Yeah.
Janine, we had talked at one time about the participants in these organizations as maybe not being the superstars, the ones that already do everything. How can we maybe promote this to those who are, that could really benefit from this and contribute to it, that aren't those people that are already the student body presidents and et cetera, et cetera. So how's our plan to do that?
So, first of all, I'm hoping, I'm thinking, it's all new, so we're kind of learning as we go, right? But because we're starting the Leadership Academy first, and that's open to anyone can participate, that maybe when we get to the application for the Youth Council, that we can encourage some of those students to participate. We will be screening those applications, and the City Council will actually appoint those people, those students, to the Youth Council, just like you do other committees. And so I'm hoping that through the application process, we can come up with some good questions that will lead us to those kids that we would like to serve in that capacity.
I'd consider it an honor and a great opportunity to go and visit some of the high schools in their government classes or whatever they have, and kind of present this. I think that would be well if we kind of divide and go out and hit some of the high schools that would, feed into this program. Kind of explain it. I think that that might drive some excitement, and I'd be happy to participate in that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. We'll see if we can get that. My one concern is I'm sure, and maybe next year in a few months, it will be easier. I know teachers are probably pretty overwhelmed as it is right now, and to add one more thing in, but maybe they'd be grateful to have someone come from the city council. Just getting it set up. In the past, it's been hard to reach out to those teachers because they're working so hard in their other capacities and to try and get that. I know Brandon's been in touch with some representatives at the district level, and I'm hoping that if with that help that we can get into some of the classrooms. So it's a great idea, and I'll see if we can make it happen.
Great.
To go along with what Rich has to say here, I think if we can stir up a lot of interest, and Janine, I thank you for making that presentation, but maybe we ought to go to the advisors or at the schools and say, how can we promote this in your school? That may be our first step, is to talk to the advisors in the school and some of the administration to see what direction they would like to take the information to. If the other question, I have a question that if I'm interested and I'm in a high school, would I go to the administration and say I would like to fill out this application, or would they go to the city offices there or online and get an application to fill it out? Especially those who are homeschooled, they need to have a resource by which they can, if they're interested, to fill out the application.
Yeah, the application will be online, and kids are very tech savvy these days, and we're hoping that through a good social media campaign and through efforts that you've identified through the advisors and administrators at the schools, that we can direct those kids to that online application.
Or even the counselors in the schools could give us some resource information.
Yeah, there's a lot of great connections, good partnerships we have in the school district with some folks. I think we'll be able to tap into the right angles. Thanks so much again, Janine, for all that work, and definitely thank those students and Amir for all of their input and insights. I think, it really drums up a lot of excitement. I don't think we're gonna have any problems getting the council members to serve on this committee. We've already had 4 or 5 volunteers, so it's awesome. Everybody's very excited about it. And with that, if there's no more discussion, I'd be happy. Oh, on this one, we actually are going to receive public input as well. I apologize. I'm not looking at my agenda very well. So if there's anybody on the call that would like to give input about this particular item, you could feel free to raise your hand in the Zoom meeting.
Chair, I'm not seeing any hands being raised again. So if you're ready, I would be happy to make a motion.
Thank you.
I would make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2020-30, establishing the Ogden City Youth Council and the Youth Leadership Academy.
I second.
Oh, now that's, I told you, everybody's very excited. So we have a motion by Councilmember Heyer, a second by Councilmember Lopez, loudly and clearly. And this is also a roll call vote.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Lopez?
See, yes.
Councilmember Stevens?
Yes.
Vice Chair Blair?
Yes.
Chair Chaburka?
Aye, and that passes. I'm very excited. Congratulations to those students. Congratulations. Thanks so much, again, Janine for putting that together and the staff for being willing to help to support that.
Hey, and Chair, or Janine, I think it would be really important to reach out to the Utah League of Cities and Towns to let them know that we have passed this, because I think that they're very involved with, I know they're very involved with youth councils. So I would really like to get this youth council also involved with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. So now we have time for general public comments. This is a time to speak with the council about any concerns or ideas on any topic, and make sure that you're considerate of everyone and just limiting your comments to 3 minutes. I believe everybody on the call knows how to comment. Yeah, so once Brandon gives you the go ahead, you'll just state your name for the record.
Heath Sato, the time is yours. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Hey everybody, it's Heath Sato. I'd like to apologize to the city council if they were left with the impression, as the mayor said he was, that I was insulting the council and city staff in some way in my comments last week. He expressed strong offense at my comments rather than addressing my concerns. So today I want to make it completely clear that I was not in any way blaming staff or council for the problems with this new building code. Every one of you did your best given the time constraints placed upon you. I want to make it clear that I did not speak up merely to complain. I spoke because these code issues are important to the health of our city, and I want to hear that the city is aware of where it fell short. I want to hear that it has learned from the experience, and I want to hear that it will do better moving forward. The mayor's on record saying that there's a surplus of housing that is affordable here, which may surprise the blue-collar citizens of Ogden that are hurting due to high housing costs. The mayor has been informed many times that this assessment is based upon data from the wider Ogden-Clearfield area, not just Ogden alone. Ogden itself has much lower wages than many surrounding areas because we have not seen an appreciable increase in higher paying jobs in recent years, despite the national economy's strong growth. Out-of-state housing investment has led to a huge imbalance in local wages and home prices, and it's only getting worse. So it's been no shock to anyone that many developers have jumped on the situation and are filling the void with suboptimal housing that takes advantage of our outdated building code. A lot of people saw this problem coming years ago. I don't blame the Planning Commission, I don't blame the City Council, and I don't blame the staff. I want to be 100% clear this time. I place the blame squarely on the mayor for not making this a priority much sooner. The mayor's job is to have the vision to see problems coming a mile away. Lastly, the mayor also seemed to take great offense last week that I was, quote, reading from a script, unquote. That is true, and I am reading from a script I wrote right now. This is because, like many people that aren't politicians, public speaking makes me incredibly uncomfortable, and I'd rather not do it at all. But as a citizen that cares about the city, I feel it's my civic duty to speak up when I have concerns that our city is being mismanaged, and this is how I get through it. Last week, I wanted to ask if this administration is protecting our citizens and city employees by requiring masks in City Hall yet. I also wanted to ask if any updates on the city's continuing failure to recycling are available. But I knew I only had time to address the one issue that was a priority to me that week because I wrote it down first. So I will continue to write down what I want to say, and I'm going to read these thoughts during my public comment time, whether the mayor chooses to mock me for it or not. And in the future, I hope the mayor will focus more on considering citizens' concerns and spend less time taking offense about being held accountable. And because I scripted this response, I know my 3 minutes are up. Thanks for listening. Everybody have a good night.
Thanks, Heath. Any other public comments? I'm not seeing any other hands raised. Would anybody like to comment about the questions? I feel like the mask question, it's probably been answered by the public health order, right? Mark's shaking his head, yes.
We are requiring masks in our buildings. We're asking everyone to wear them. But yes, the public order is a health. It's a health order now, and then the health department's the one that regulates whether masks are required for our community or not.
And then I don't believe we have any updates for the recycling situation, right?
No, we don't.
Okay, I don't see Mayor Caldwell on the call. Would you like to make any comments, Mark?
You get the second team, sorry.
Oh, no, I don't want to neglect him if he's here and I just can't see him for some reason.
We are really excited about the Marshall White Committee. I'm grateful for staff that put so much effort and time into this. This was a big effort. It's a big effort to start a committee or restart a committee. And I was grateful. I saw Priscilla on there that she agreed to, but I also saw that under the name of Betty Sawyer, one of the names on the list is Butch Sawyer, or I don't think it's on there. It's his given name, not his name I know him by. When I was on the city council, Butch was the director of the Marshall White Center. And so I think his knowledge will be very valuable to this committee. I also think it's very significant that Ronald White, Marshall White's son, wanted to be on the committee, asked to be on the committee. And so we're delighted to have Marshall White's son be part of this committee. I think it'll be a good one. One last thing, I think it's significant that the Ogden-Ben Lomond game was held last week. It was a wonderful game. And because it was so good, they have lined them up to play each other again Friday in the state playoff game. So there's a repeat. We'll see if Ogden can beat Ben Lomond twice in 2 weeks or whether Ben Lomond will prevail. I was talking to Blake Moore today when he was at Ogden High School. He said they played and won the horse game many years ago against Ben Lomond, and then met Ben Lomond in the semifinals of the state tournament when Emmett White was at Ben Lomond, and he said Ben Lomond beat him. So he said it's hard to be the same team twice in 1 year. So it'll be an interesting game. And not having children at either school, I hope both do very well.
It's a good thing you're not the mayor, because he couldn't be as unbiased.
Well, he's got a student body president at Ogden High he has to go home and deal with.
Are there any other council member comments?
Chair, could I take a few minutes?
Please.
I too echo what Mark said about the Marshall White Center. The Marshall White facility is a crucial aspect for our city, and it needs to be a citywide recreational facility. And that's what I hope the committee can bring forward, those plans that will generate that type of a situation that everyone in the city can enjoy and participate in. I think it has a very important, intriguing element to contribute to the success of our community. And we have individuals on the committee that can look at the programs and make suggestions where things need to be improved and changed or stay the same. I am looking for a great influx of information from this committee. I want them to be very credible, and be able to present information that can be used to develop a successful facility. And so that's what I'm looking at this committee, and I think they have the resources to do that. Now, according to our work session, and Councilwoman Member White mentioned speeding, and I would just like to add to Mark's list the 600 block of Cross Street. I had an email from a resident over in that area that says because of the young families and the children there and the kids, that has become a problem. And also, I'd like to mention that the mayor said that if Ogden would beat Ben Lomond, Well, they did. And I says, well, if that happened, that I would owe him a lunch. Well, they're playing again on Friday. I predict that Bellomont will beat Ogden, and either it's double or nothing on that game. Either I'll owe the mayor 2 lunches or he'll owe me 2 lunches. So that's we'll have to see how that turns out in Ogden City on Friday.
Any other comments?
Not looking like it, so I will make a motion to adjourn.
Great, thank you, Councilmember. I was just gonna say the same thing that, I think I said all of my appreciations during the meeting. So thanks everyone so much. We have a motion to adjourn by Councilmember Heyer.
Second.
Second by Councilmember Stevens. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks everyone. Have a wonderful evening.
We have one more meeting.
Welcome everyone to the Special Redevelopment Agency meeting of October 20th, 2020. Please let the record reflect that all board members are present with the exception of board member Nadolski. This evening, we have a public hearing for fiscal year 2021 budget amendment to the Continental Community Reinvestment Area. And we welcome Lisa Stout, the comptroller, for a presentation about that item.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here with you, board members. Let's see if I can do this right this time. So we are here to talk about proposed resolution 2020-2 to amend the redevelopment agency budget by $600,000. The city council just appropriated $600,000 to be transferred out of the BDO fund to the redevelopment agency. And the resolution before you in this action is to recognize those funds in the redevelopment agency and appropriate them in the 25th Street redevelopment area to help with development costs at the hostess site. Just a quick review. The city to date has, the redevelopment agency to date has budgeted $3.6 million to help with the redevelopment of the hostess or Flowers food site. This has come from an internal fund loan from the CDB Mall in the amount of $1.1 million, a bridge loan from OIDC in the amount of $1 million, and BDO lease revenue in the amount of $1.5 million. The expenditures at this project to date total 3.3, just under $3.4 million. 2.1 went towards the acquisition of the property. $656,000 went towards site work and demolition costs. We have, of the $1 million bridge loan from OIDC, $430,000 has been repaid, and interest payments of $200,000 have also been paid on that loan. The action before the redevelopment board is to appropriate the transfer from Ogden City to 25th Street to use the $600,000 being transferred for a debt service repayment of $570,000 and the rest towards improvements at this redevelopment area. And Brandon Cooper with CED is here, the deputy director, to talk about the project itself.
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa. I'll jump on the screen share here as well. So as you know, one of the community strategic plan principles is economic development. And so from time to time, Ogden City gets involved in projects to further that initiative. The Wonder Block project is one of those projects that we initiated some years ago with the acquisition of the old Continental Bakery site. And that was to maintain control of the site so that we could determine somewhat the outcome of the project in support of Ogden's downtown and 25th Street. And so, as Lisa said, we purchased the property for a little over $2.1 million. $1 million of that came from the Ogden Industrial Development Corporation via a loan. And so tonight's tonight's budget amendment is the repayment of the remaining principal balance of that loan. And that would allow us then to move forward with a development agreement with our selected developer partner, which is JF Capital. And you'll be seeing some additional information come forward in the next coming weeks that contemplates the other things that will be necessary to make this project work out. We're very excited about what's been designed. There's been a lot of smart people over the last few months get involved with this project from all over the country, actually. And it looks to be one of Ogden's largest projects in terms of total cost. So look forward to that in the next coming weeks. And I'll take any questions if you have it about tonight's transaction.
And then I have a quick question. How do you select the developers that or this particular developer, I guess I should say?
This particular developer was selected as a recommendation from us. In a lot of times in the RDA, we do seek out negotiated deals with developers because we tend to have an objective in mind. And a lot of times doing a public solicitation does not actually yield a better result than just directly negotiating with partners that we've selected. So in the case of JF Capital, they came highly recommended. They're a top tier developer in the state. And they specialize in mixed use developments where there are multiple types of products, multifamily, office, and in this case, hospitality. And so we've had a wonderful experience with them. They've actually done some things in the planning process that we have never seen before from a developer team. And I think that they are going to be well informed and very capable to pull off the project.
Thanks so much. I just have one more question about that. And how much money do we expect that they'll invest in the project, or is that something you can share?
That's subject to change, but with $170 million, most of that will come through debt and equity sources that will be their responsibility. So I anticipate that their debt obligation on a project like this at a company level will exceed well over $75 or $80 million. And then the rest of that money will come through equity sources, whether it's private equity investors or public equity through some of the things that we'll be talking about in the near future.
Thanks. Are there any other questions?
I have one, Chair, if I could.
Yes.
To go along with that, Brandon, when you look at a developer or any type of developer at any project, you go through and make sure they're financially sound. And the other question is, you mentioned that the interest on this project is quite high. Does that mean that there'll be more private money being used versus public money?
So the first question is, do we do some due diligence on our developer partners? And the answer is always yes. We look at the principals that make up the company. We look at any partnerships that they have, their banking relationships. To the extent possible, we look at their financials. Obviously, these are not public companies, and so those things are tightly guarded. But in most cases, we're able to look at just their typical balance sheets and typical financials like that. We do a tour of their assets. So we look at what they're building currently, what they've built in the past, what kind of projects they're looking at in the future. We obviously go off of references, which is how we came across JF Capital. So We haven't struck gold with every developer because development is hard, but we are constantly looking for new partners and new companies that are willing to invest massive amounts of time and money into the community. As it relates to the other question, actually, I forgot the other question.
Well, with the interest in the project,
that's right.
Sounds like more public or private money is going to be invested than what the public funds will be used. Is that correct?
By far, and that's usually the case. Whenever there is public assistance provided, it usually is much lower than what the private money is, whether that's from debt or equity. So that'll be the case here.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
If there's no other questions, Chair, make a motion.
Okay.
Make a motion that we adopt proposed resolution 2020-2.
Hate to interrupt again, but this is also a public hearing.
Oh, thank you, Board Member Hiram. You are correct.
Good thing we have Councilman Heyer around, huh?
I expect that the staff would also remind us if we went too much further, but yeah, it's good to have extra backup. Great. Maybe we should just, I don't see any new members on the attendees list, but if you'd like to make a comment, please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting, and then it's about this specific item, and state your name for the record.
Angel Castillo, the time is yours. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Good evening, Angel Castillo. I'd just like to make a couple of comments with regards to bid process. I understand and I respect that the developer chosen for this project is probably a great fit, and they're going to invest a substantial amount of money, and that's awesome. That's what I want to see for Ogden. However, I'm a little disturbed that we don't have a set process that has the ability to have other parties, other developers bid using a weighted rank choice system. This also concerns me because it doesn't seem to be that there's any effort to address equity. Companies that have membership or ownership with women or minorities. We have a chance to make sure that if we had a ranked bid process, that we could give extra points to people who employed women or minorities as major stakeholders or within staff. And it's a more transparent process for the public. Very much like Weber State pretty much knew that Brad Mortensen was going to be their president, they made the effort to bring in multiple candidates to interview to make sure that they went through the process and chose exactly the right person. It just concerns me that we are selecting developers, the public isn't involved in the process, and nor that they shouldn't be involved, but that they're aware of the process and they understand how it goes through, and we're told the story why we're spending millions of our tax dollars to work with this particular developer, because this developer has our best interest in mind. So I would just like to see some accountability, some transparency, and I'm excited that there is a potential developer and that we're going to be moving forward because it's great for Ogden and that's what I want to see. But again, I really want more transparency, more accountability, and most definitely looking at how do we provide additional seats at the table with partners for the city with equity, diversity, and inclusion. Thank you.
Thanks, Angel. If anybody else would like to make comment, you can raise your hand in a Zoom meeting to do so.
Chair, seeing no hands, I'd make a motion that we close the public hearing on this item.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilmember Heyer and a second by Vice Chair Blair to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Chair, I'll second the motion that was made prior.
Okay, great. And remind me again who made that motion. I've forgotten.
That was Board Member Stevens.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I need to start writing it down. So we have a motion by Board Member Stevens to approve the proposed resolution 2020-2, and we have a second by Board Member Heyer. This is a roll call vote.
Board Member Heyer?
Aye.
Board Member Lopez?
Aye.
Board Member Stevens?
Aye.
Board Member White?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Chaburka?
Aye, and that passes. Thank you. I should just comment too that I agree with the comments from Angel. I understand why we might want to be extra selective in a process, but I wish that it was more transparent. Now we have time for public comments for the RDA. This is also a time to address the board regarding any concerns or ideas on any topic. And there'd be 3 minutes for each comment. So you can raise your hand in the Zoom meeting if you'd like to comment.
Betty Sawyer, the time is yours. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Betty Sawyer, president of the Ogden NAACP. I appreciate the comments from Angel Castillo about equity issues and would just like to recommend that that's, if it's not already, something that will be a part of all of the council deliberations when we're spending not only large sums of money, but it's an opportunity to provide access and equity when we're spending smaller amounts to make sure that we're reaching out and expanding our reach to work with businesses owned by historically marginalized people of color. And it's something I know a lot of cities and counties have thresholds in their purchasing to do active outreach and purchasing with minority companies. And it's something I think is important for the city to do the same if it hasn't already adopted any kind of initiatives or established that as a priority to support those businesses as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Betty. If anybody else would like to make any general comments to the RDA, please raise your hand in the Zoom meeting. I'm not seeing any at this time. I don't believe the executive director is with us. Mark, would you like to make any comments?
Just one follow-up from a previous meeting. I've already contacted the chief about the 2 locations needing extra police presence, and he said he'd get right on it.
Good. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. And any comments from board members? I'm not seeing any at this time. Would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. A motion to adjourn by Board Member Heyer.
I second.
Second by Board Member Lopez. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Great. Well, now, thank you again and have a wonderful evening.
Stay safe.